developed by people who have those abilities, who have that knowledge and those skills to do so, to move forward, to develop knowledge in those sectors that are very specific. So there's a certain amount of rivalry among the chairs, and that does not really fit in with matters of diversity and inclusion. I'm sorry. When we come back, the honourable member will have 5 minutes to conclude his speech.
Statement by members, declarations,
Statements by member.
The honourable member for Scarborough North.
2 weeks ago, this House unanimously passed a motion recognizing May 18th as Tamil Genocide Remembrance Day in Canada. As we mark 13 years since the end of the Sri Lankan armed conflict, let us learn from the mistakes of the past so that future generations never repeat them. As we stand in solidarity with our Tamil community, let us commemorate the many lives lost and never forget them. As the pain and trauma ensues, let us continue to push for justice and accountability here in Canada and around the world. Mr. Speaker, my riding of Scarborough North is home to the headquarters of both the Canadian Tamil Congress and the National Council of Canadian Tamils. Allow me this opportunity to recognize these organizations for their tireless work at the grassroots to champion Tamil genocide recognition in Canada. On May 18th, let us remember, and we commit to a world of peace. Thank you. Merci.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the citizens of Oshawa, after 2 long, difficult years, I'd like to welcome everyone to celebrate our 48th annual Fiesta Week. Welcome back. We encourage residents to enjoy and experience Oshawa's rich and diverse cultures. We have many pavilions that will let us appreciate different traditions, from dance to, of course, the food. This year especially, let us recognize the Ukrainian community who will be welcoming and embracing newcomers who have traveled afar from Ukraine to the safety of Oshawa. After 2 years, we also welcome back our fun-filled Fiesta Parade, Sunday, June 19th. Let's line our streets and celebrate. Once again, congratulations and a big thank you to the Oshawa Folk Arts Council for organizing this wonderful week-long party. It's their hard work that will continue to make Fiesta Week such a successful, enduring celebration. Yakuyu, danka, grazie, merci, obrigado, gracias, dziękuję. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, to quote Andrew Brown from CBC Calgary, you can accomplish anything you set your mind to, unless Connor McDavid also wants that thing. I want to extend my sincerest congratulations to the Edmonton Oilers and to my fellow Alberta Liberal, the honourable member from Edmonton Centre, for his team's victory against the Calgary Flames in the second round of the NHL playoffs. After a hard-fought battle of Alberta, Oilers fans, including my wife, are thrilled to see their team advance to the Western Conference Finals. Canadians across the country have also been inspired by the story of Ben Stelter, the 6-year-old Oilers superfan courageously battling brain cancer while supporting his favorite team. Mr. Speaker, I hope members of this House can join Ben, Edmontonians, and Oilers fans across this great nation in supporting Canada's remaining team and the winner of the Battle of Alberta, the Edmonton Oilers.
I thank the member for his intervention. I'm just checking to see if he's okay wearing that jersey all day long.
The honourable member for Lac Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This month, the Patriots Recognition Evening was held in my riding. 3 young people from my region were deservedly awarded the honour of being Patriots of the 2022 succession for their commitment to our community. Congratulations to Jeanne Bouchard from the University of Quebec in Chicoutimi, selected for her student and community involvement. And this dedicated woman works with various organizations and has helped vulnerable people throughout the pandemic. William Tremblay, a student in police technology at Collège d'Alma, known for his rigor and respect towards his fellow students. He shows leadership and represents the interests of his fellow students. And finally, from the Cégep de Saint-Félicien, Nathan Lajeune, an important ally for student life and academic success. He contributes to the positivity of his institution, and he's attentive to his peers. And finally, all those, congratulations and bravo. The Honourable Member for Nickel Belt. Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize the incredible students of John Paul II School in Val-Caron in my riding. The 7th and 8th grade students of the Val-Cur Club coordinated the sale of cocograms during the Easter season. They raised over $2,000 and donated it to the Canadian Red Cross in support of those affected by the war in Ukraine.
Generosity displayed by the students at École Jean-Paul II is inspiring. The funds raised will assist the Red Cross in fundraising for food, clothing, healthcare for those who have been impacted by the conflict of Ukraine. My sincere thank you goes out to Nathalie Lamontagne, Vice Principal, and all the staff who have supported this initiative. Bon travail, les Comets.
Great job, Comets. You are true role models as global citizens. We can all learn from you. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Thank you. Today it is my honor to rise on behalf of Azerbaijan and Azerbaijan Republic Day. Azerbaijan is an amazing country full of diversity and even contradictions. It is a country where the population are majority Muslim. However, it has also been a refuge for hundreds of years for thousands of folks of the Jewish religion. It is a country where when the Soviet Union tore down churches, it was Muslims who paid to rebuild them. It's a country that embraces renewables, but is proud of its oil and gas industry, an industry that built pipelines over mountains, through seas, across multiple jurisdictions that literally kept the lights on in Southern Europe. Azerbaijan is a country that has much to be proud of over the last 104 years, but perhaps even more importantly, it has much to contribute over the next 100 years. Happy Azerbaijan Republic Day!
The Honourable Member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Over May long weekend, my community of Ottawa Centre and many others across Eastern Ontario and Western Quebec experienced one of the strongest storms in living memory. What started as an emergency alert Saturday afternoon ended in tragedy, devastation, and darkness for thousands of residents. Mon cœur se brise pour ceux qui...
My heart breaks for those who have lost friends and loved ones.
In these trying circumstances, our community came together as they always do. Residents were checking on their neighbors. Community organizations like the Soloway Jewish Community Center, the Ottawa Mosque, and the Parkdale Food Center opened their doors to provide shelter, food, and electricity to thousands. And our hydro workers and first responders took immediate action to repair this historic storm damage. Notre rétablissement n'est pas complet.
Our recovery is not over, but our entire city has really risen to this challenge.
Volunteers and all our neighbors, I say thank you, merci, for all of your hard work. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the stories of Asian Canadians are unique, diverse, and deserve to be heard. As May comes to an end and we bid farewell to Asian Heritage Month, we must continue to amplify Asian voices while acknowledging the lived realities of being Asians in Canada and learning more about the vibrancy of each language, ethnicity, and tradition of Asian heritage brings to our country. Just last week, I was pleased to attend Here We Stay, an event honoring Canada's 155 years of multicultural history through the stories of 155 Chinese immigrants, all of whom have had such profound experiences. While this month of celebration may have come to an end, let's remember to celebrate their stories each and every day. From one generation to the next, they have helped build the inclusive Canada that we know and we love. So join me in thanking them now and always. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Ballaford's Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, fuel prices are hitting record highs in Canada. Skyrocketing fuel costs add to the already increased costs of goods and driving is becoming more and more unaffordable. But for Canadians in rural communities like my constituents in Battleford's Lloydminster, there is no alternative to driving to work, to school, or to getting everyday essentials. The reality is that taxes remain one of the largest components of fuel prices, and this Prime Minister could provide Canadians some much-needed relief. Instead, he chose to increase the carbon tax burden. Canada is the only G7 country to have raised taxes on gas during a global energy crisis. The Prime Minister is completely out of touch with Canadians, Mr. Speaker, and it is time that this NDP Liberal government stop rejecting common sense solutions like a GST suspension on gas prices or the elimination of the failed carbon tax. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve better. Thank you.
The honourable member for St. John's East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague across the aisle for his work on the opioid crisis. I agree on the need for robust harm reduction strategies, including supervised consumption sites, diversion away from the criminal justice system, access to dignified housing options, and treatment. But from my years of working in this sector, I've seen the sad realities of what happens when you force a top-down national approach without taking into consideration regional differences. Each province and territory's ability to respond to this crisis differs based on the supports and strategies that they have in place. So I believe we must work quickly and first ensure that the foundational elements are effectively in place across the country before we address nationally mandated decriminalization. Too many lives have been lost and we must act, but I believe we must do the work at the community level. There is no one-size-fits-all answer to a crisis that differs so vastly across the country. Thank you.
The honourable member for Red Deer Mountain View.
Mr. Speaker, this week is National Accessibility Week, and I've been honored to have known many brave men and women that have spent too much of their lives confined to a wheelchair. I've always said that these people do more to get ready for their day than most people do during their day. Today, I want to highlight the circumstances that my friend Bob Blair faces. His medical needs are severe. As a quadriplegic, he requires 24/7 monitoring and has had excellent care for years, but now he faces a future without this help. Moving into a long-term care facility will not meet his needs. So when the government created a pilot program to bring in foreign personal care workers, Bob welcomed the chance to have quality constant care again, but that simply is not the case. Bob has asked me to share his plight with this House in the hope that he and others in the disability community can continue to live and function with dignity at home, not in some medical institution, forgotten and isolated away from family and friends. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, this weekend over 15,000 strong in Toronto's Jewish community gathered for UJA's Walk for Israel. It's the biggest event of its kind in Canada. Running for more than 50 years, it supports UJA projects that help vulnerable populations in Israel. While it's one of the most successful events in the community corresponding with Yom Yerushalayim, commemorating the reunification of Jerusalem after the Six-Day War, it's also a sober reminder of the exceptional measures that the Jewish community has to take simply to exercise their right to freedom of assembly and expression. As the most frequently targeted religious minority in Canada, the Jewish community, through the UJA, has no choice but to expend significant charitable dollars just to provide security measures needed for community members to stay safe at the walk. No targeted community should have to pay a security premium simply to exercise their rights as Canadians. Right. Sadly, this isn't just the walk. It's synagogues, it's schools, it's community centres. We have a problem in this country, and members of this House need to know it.
That's right.
The honourable member of Madawaska-Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate all of our high school, college, and university graduates in Canada, and particularly in my riding of Madawaska-Restigouche. Congratulations on your success.
Are now rewarded. You have, through thick and thin, carried out your work with brilliance and perseverance. You have rolled up your sleeves and reached this important milestone in your life.
Take the time to savor all that you've accomplished. You are now well equipped to choose your next path, the one that promises you a bright future.
Follow your passions. Take pleasure in the personal and professional opportunities offered to you. And above all, always keep an open mind and an open heart. They'll be good guides in your future. To all graduates, once again, congratulations and good luck in your future projects. Encore une fois.
Once again, congratulations and good luck in your future endeavors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
I pay tribute to an extraordinary youth leader, the late Shannon Kustashian of Attawapiskat First Nation, who died 12 years ago tonight in a terrible highway accident in Northern Ontario. Shannon was only 15 at the time, but in her short life, she launched the largest youth-driven children's rights movement in Canadian history. Shannon had never seen a real school. Children on her reserve were being educated in deplorable conditions, but Shannon stood up and challenged the negligence of the Canadian state. School should be a time of dreams, she said. Every child deserves the right to go to a safe and comfy school. Shannon never lived long enough to see the beautiful Shannon's Dream School in Attawapiskat, but since her death, youth from across Canada have carried on the Shannon's Dream campaign for equal education rights. She's been recognized as one of the 150 most important women in Canadian history. That's a powerful legacy for a girl who just wanted to go to a real school. On this anniversary, we remember and miss you, Shannon. I miss you, but we know your spirit lives on.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, recently I had the privilege to meet the Minister of Catalonia, who met a large number of Quebec institution representatives, including those from the Quebec government. And we had a talk about the economic advantages by developing partnerships between such a prosperous territory like Catalonia and Quebec, which have characteristics in common. And we talked about the right of independence of our peoples and about the shameful repression that the Spanish government that is taking place. And Canada is supporting Spain in its repression, and I am committed, Mr. Speaker, to raise this issue at the House of Commons so that together we can act in dignity with respect to the Catalan people.
The honourable member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Everyone agrees that Canada needs a modernized Broadcasting Act that fits today's digital age. Unfortunately, Liberal Bill C-11 is another in a long line of bad Liberal bills. C-11 creates more red tape for businesses and creators, puts more control in the hands of the incompetent CRTC, and opens up a Pandora's box of internet regulation. If passed, C-11 could give the government the power to decide what Canadians can and cannot post on their social media profiles. C-11 is going to limit consumer choice, drive up prices, create further uncertainty for Canadian businesses and creators, and limit the free expression of all Canadians. It's time this government to scrap C-11 and get back to the drawing board once and for all.
The honourable member for Outremont. There were over 200 shootings in Montreal last year, and a few days ago, someone shot up a daycare in Quebec. Gun violence is real in our city. Yesterday, I stood with our Prime Minister as we announced a total halt on the sale and import of handguns. This is a frozen market nationally, period.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank some of the incredible advocates I've had the opportunity to work with. Police se souvient, the Coalition for Gun Control, the Danforth families, Dawson College, La Grande Mosquée de Québec, les Amis de Thomas, the Association for Women in the Law, and many, many others. It was with an enormous sense of relief that I stand in this House of Commons to say that our government is putting an end to the sale and importation of handguns. No more. In Canada, things will be different, and you will not be able to legally purchase a handgun. That is over 55,000 guns sold in this country off of our streets, period, for our children, for the safety of all Canadians.
Now, before we get to questions, I thought I'd bring in a backup.
Thank you. I'm almost speechless, almost. I'll just take a couple of minutes, if that's okay, and just thank you for that warm welcome. Merci de l'accueil.
Thank you very much for such a warm welcome. It's really a pleasure to see you again.
Great to be back. Please don't let me regret saying that. Now, while I was away, I just want to thank you all for the texts, the calls, the emails, the fruit baskets, the flowers, the plants. It really made the time go faster, knowing that someone was thinking of me, and that's something that I really do appreciate, each and every one of you. C'est vraiment gentil.
It's very kind of you, and it's something that was really helped me see past the time. So thank you so much for all your support while I was away.
I also want to take a second to just a little bit of a shout out to some very special people. The folks at Health Sciences North in Sudbury. Dr. Batira, who was the lead surgeon, and Dr. McDonald, they were both outstanding. And Dr. Wan, who's my cardiologist, who said, you better go see these people, otherwise you're not going to be around much longer. So to all three of them, thank you very much. And to North Bay doctors, Dr. Graham, who's my family doctor, and Dr. Andrews, who's a cardiologist in North Bay, who's been following up to make sure everything goes well. And you know, doctors do great jobs, but when you're in the hospital lying there, there's a certain group that really, really do an excellent job, and that's the nurses. That's well deserved. A special shout out to Victoria, Leanne, Angela, and Shannon, who made my stay as pleasant as it can be. There's two people that I really want to thank, and that is my wife Chantal and my daughter Samantha. Les deux étaient là.
They were both there for me while I was in my bed, and they brought me all sorts of things. And they told me everything I had to do, which wasn't always easy.
The staff in the constituency office and the staff in the Speaker's office, who just did yeoman's work to make sure that everything continued to work well. And I didn't get any major complaints, aside from what you guys were doing here on both sides. But other than that, but overall, they took good care of constituents. And the table officers in the clerk's office, who did outstanding work. To the point where they even signed an order making sure that I would get better. So I had to follow that order. I mean, they did an excellent job that way. And, of course, in my absence, there were some very special people here. Il y a une personne en particulier.
There's one person in particular, the honourable member for Joliette, who was here every day, and he made sure that everything went smoothly.
Was he here? Oh, okay. Then, of course, there's the chair occupants, the honourable member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing, and the honourable member for Brussels Saint-Lambert, who did outstanding work. And, of course, last but not least, the Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Member for West Nova, who did outstanding work. And once again, thank you. Merci beaucoup à vous tous.
Thank you very much to you all.
Parliament, oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
You back. Hopefully we give the government and not you a hard time today. Speaker, the Prime Minister is penalizing Canadians at the pumps on purpose. That's because he wants to end Canada's energy sector, and so he's quite happy when gas prices soar. The fact is, a carbon tax does nothing but increase the cost of gas and everything else. But still, the Prime Minister wants it because he wants high gas prices, and he doesn't care that it's hurting Canadians. Isn't it true that Canadians paying excessively high gas prices is exactly what this Prime Minister wants?
You're right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the global pandemic and inflation caused by Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine has led to rising prices across the country and around the world. That's why we continue to be there to support families with investments in childcare, with investments in increases to the CCB, with investments in supporting our seniors and our young people. But, Mr. Speaker, when the member opposite attacks the price on pollution, she perhaps forgets that $832 is what we send to families in Manitoba on average to support with the price of fuel.
Leader of the Opposition.
Well, yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we saw Liberals engage in a game of smoke and mirrors. On one hand, they're banning handguns. On the other hand, they're pushing through Bill C-5, which tells criminals, don't worry. If you're convicted of a gun crime, you just hang out at home for your sentence. This is not keeping communities safe, and it is not reassuring to moms and dads who are worried about their kids. So, will the Prime Minister get serious about keeping vulnerable communities safe, scrap Bill C-5, and legislate tough penalties for gun criminals?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, it's absolutely true that we move forward to present legislation that, once passed, will make it no longer legal to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, Bill C-5, the legislation does not stop police from charging people with gun offenses or prosecutors from pursuing convictions. What it does do is make sure criminals face serious penalties while addressing the overrepresentation of Black Canadians and Indigenous peoples in the criminal justice system.
Hear, hear. Leader of the Opposition.
I'm a mom, and I know all of us want our kids safe in their schools and in their communities. That's why I'm so frustrated with what these Liberals are doing. They're banning guns, and then when the criminals ignore their gun ban and use the guns to rob someone or commit a carjacking, the Liberals are letting these gun criminals do their time at home. How can the Prime Minister claim to be keeping people safe when he refuses to have jail time for violent criminals who ignore his useless gun bans and are hurting and terrorizing our children?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, our criminal justice reform legislation turns the page on failed conservative policies that ignored systemic racism and discrimination. What our communities need is a justice system that punishes criminals. What we don't need is a system that targets racialized people because of systemic discrimination or sends people to prison because they struggle with addiction. This bill is another step forward to create a system that is fair, effective, and keeps Canadians safe.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is that violent gun crime has only gone up under this Prime Minister. Actually, it's gone up significantly since he's formed office, and the data proves this, Mr. Speaker. He has failed to keep Canadians safe from gun violence in our cities like Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Winnipeg, and at the same time, he's been weak on violent crime, soft on criminals by allowing them to avoid jail time with bills like Bill C-5. Mr. Speaker, when will this Prime Minister drop his failed approach, stop putting our communities at risk, and go after dangerous criminals with guns?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, over the past 7 years, we've continually moved forward on strengthening gun control in this country. And that's exactly what we announced yesterday, making it no longer legal, as of the passage of that legislation, to buy, sell, import, or transfer handguns in Canada. On top of that, the assault weapon ban that we brought in place 2 years ago is going to be matched with a mandatory buyback. These are measures that are going to keep our communities safe, measures the Conservatives vote against because they're against gun control.
Honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is misleading Canadians. Bill C-5 and the other measures by this Liberal government are failing to keep our communities safe. They are putting them at risk. If they wanted to stop gun violence, they'd put more resources to border agents to stop gun smuggling. They'd put more resources to police to stop violent criminals with guns. They'd put more resources for anti-gang community groups to divert youth from a life of crime. That's how you stop gun violence, not useless gun bans or bills like Bill C-21 that will do nothing to stop gun violence in this country. Isn't that right, Mr. Speaker?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, while Conservative members parrot talking points from the gun lobby, we will continue to act on keeping Canadians safe. That's exactly what we've continued to do over the past many years and what we continue to move forward with on stronger gun control, while at the same time we do invest in communities, while we do invest in more tools for CBSA and RCMP to interdict guns at the border. Indeed, over the past year, we interdicted twice as many guns as we had the year before. Our plan is working, Mr. Speaker. We're going to continue to keep Canadians safe.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, you have clearly exhausted my colleague for Joliette, but I am still very happy that you are back. However, the Minister of Justice and the Prime Minister have clearly expressed that they plan to go to the Supreme Court against Bill 21 and Bill 96, which in itself is an extension of Bill 101. So ultimately, the government will be bringing the debate onto friendly territory with a predictable result. And how can we explain all that? Well, the real question for the Prime Minister is the following. Is English really threatened in Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, with regard to Bill 21, we are on the side of Quebecers who are shocked and disappointed that a young teacher can no longer practice her profession. We support Quebecers who are defending their rights in the courts. With regard to this legislation that they find unjust, we expect this matter to be appealed to the Supreme Court of Canada, and if that occurs, our government is determined to contribute to the debate, given the broad implications for all Canadians throughout the country, and the necessity of defending the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Contributing to the debate means cash, and also perpetuating a real lie. Because we need to stop telling this lie, this partisan lie about non-practicable jobs. Ultimately, the Quebec language and secularism is being attacked, and that's actually now what all of the Conservative leadership candidates are doing. The basis to all this, and this question was not answered, is English threatened in Quebec? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we all agree that French is threatened throughout the country. And therefore, we are here to protect French, not just in Quebec, but also in official language minority communities outside Quebec. And in order to be consistent, in order to protect minority French communities outside Quebec, we also need to be there to protect minority Anglophone communities inside Quebec. We are consistent in our approach. We will always be there to defend minorities throughout the country. That's why we have our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, we just learned that the government approved BC's request to decriminalize small quantities of drugs. It took them 27,000 overdose deaths over 6 years until they finally saw reason. But there are also families who are mourning their loved ones in other provinces. My colleague for Courtenay Alberni has proposed a bill which will be voted on tomorrow, which takes a public health approach. Will this government stop playing games with people's lives and vote in favor of that legislation tomorrow? It's a question of life and death. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the opioid crisis has hit families and communities hard. We have lost many to an overdose. Our approach follows up on other measures that we took previously to fight the opioid crisis, including investments of over $800 million in community-led projects to reduce risks and for treatment and prevention. We also recently approved BC's request to remove penalties on possession of small amounts of drugs in the province, and we will continue to collaborate with all provinces and territories in the country to save lives and end the crisis.
Bernie.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government has finally approved British Columbia's request to decriminalize simple possession of controlled substances after dragging its feet for months. This is an important step to stop the harms of failed drug policy. But we're dealing with a national crisis. There are thousands of families burying their loved ones outside of BC. Provincial and local governments shouldn't have to fill the void of federal leadership. Lives are at stake. A patchwork approach is completely irresponsible. Will this government save lives by supporting my bill tomorrow for a national health-based approach to substance use?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government recognizes that problematic substance use is a public health issue, and we are working with partners to advance a multifaceted health-based strategy to end the overdose and toxic drug supply crisis. That is why we've approved the BC proposal to decriminalize personal possession of small amounts of certain illegal drugs within the province. There is, of course, more to do, and we're taking action with a range of provinces and territories, as well as other partners, to end this ongoing tragedy. We know that we need to move forward on proper supports, and that's what we're doing with BC, and we look forward to talking with other provinces about that as well.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, when the government is asked about inflation and the cost of living, it continually downplays the real struggle of Canadians that they face while referring to the strength of the economy. But now reports confirm what Canadians are feeling. In March, the economy grew by just 0.7%. In April, the economy nearly stalled, and inflation is at 30-year highs. Mr. Speaker, so what does the Minister of Finance have to say to the Canadians that are struggling with inflation and now facing a slowing economy? Is relief on the way?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have to urge a little bit of economic literacy on the members opposite. The reality is, in data released today, the Canadian economy grew by 3.1% on an annualized basis in the first quarter of this year. Mr. Speaker, that is the highest growth rate in the G7, a very impressive performance. And I want to thank Canadians for their hard work that leads to that strength of our economy.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Well, has the minister seen the price of gasoline lately? Well, of course not. She's got a chauffeur. But in Vancouver, it's as high as $2.35 per litre. A huge chunk of that cost is GST and the carbon tax. In fact, it's a tax on a tax. Conservatives have asked the Prime Minister to suspend GST on gasoline purchases. He refused. The only winner is this Liberal government, which is raking in billions in extra taxes, but is refusing to share that windfall with Canadian families. Why has this Prime Minister and this government so badly failed Canadians in their time of need?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have tremendous respect for the member for Abbotsford, but I must say that his economic analysis here is just off. The reality is a price on pollution is the most effective way to fight climate change. The IMF, among others, has recognized the Canadian approach as an international model. And Mr. Speaker, that money goes back directly to Canadians. Ontario, where I'm an MP, a family of 4 will get $745 back. In Alberta, more than $1,000.
The Honourable Member for Battleford's Lloydminster.
Well, Mr. Speaker, with that answer, I would suggest, and it sounds like that the minister isn't speaking to Canadians whatsoever. Gas prices are hitting record levels, and Canadians are struggling to fill their tanks. The Prime Minister likes to point the finger elsewhere. The reality is that taxes on fuel are lining his government's pockets on the backs of hardworking Canadians. The latest carbon tax hike could not have come at a worse time and is even more punishing for constituents like mine who live in rural Canada. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister offer Canadians some much-needed relief and finally abandon his failed carbon tax?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for the question because it gives me an opportunity to remind members of the fact that the price on pollution goes back directly to Canadian families. A family of 4 in Saskatchewan, for example, will get $1,100 back. In Alberta, $1,079. Manitoba, $832. And Ontario, which I represent, $745. That is real money back in the pockets of Canadian families, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Perth Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives care about Canadian creators, but the Liberals continue to ignore the negative impacts of C11. This morning, digital creator and 47-year-old skateboarding mom, Orby Roy, told this to the committee. Not only does this bill not help me, it hurts me and actively undermines my needs. Wow. I have never gotten a seat at the table, except now as a digital creator, I'm getting a seat at the table. Representation matters. Please don't suppress my voice." End quote. Mr. Speaker, will the government do the right thing and fully exempt user-generated content and remove Section 4.2 from Bill C11?
The Honourable Minister for Canadian Heritage.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about representation. Yesterday, we heard a troubling revelation at committee. Our organization dedicated to opposing Bill C11 admitted that it was paid by YouTube and TikTok, but they claim to represent exactly that, digital creators saying they're grassroots. That's called astroturfing. And of course, this was never, ever revealed before. And it raises serious question, Mr. Speaker. Did the Conservatives know this when they indicted that organization?
Member for Perth Wellington.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what Conservatives know is that we will always stand up for our creative industries and fight on their behalf so we can see Canadian creators succeed here at home and around the globe. Yesterday at committee, communications expert Monica Auer said gaps in C11 will make current serious problems with CRTC's transparency, accountability, and timing even worse. Wow. Court challenges of its implementation by CRTC will create long delays and cost Canada and those working in its creative sectors quite dearly. Mr. Speaker, will the government stand up for new creative industries and admit that their strategy is flawed and fully exempt user-generated content?
Honourable Minister.
We are, Mr. Speaker, standing up for them. We are, like we're standing up for other cultures workers, for our producers, for our actors, for our technicians, something they can't do. They cannot say, yes, we're going to support Bill C11 because it's important to tell our stories, because it's important for music, because it's important for television. They never said that, and they never will, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member, l'Honorable Député de Richmond-Arthabasca.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabasca. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals claim that user-generated content in C11 will be exempted from regulation. But it is clearly written that the CRTC could regulate any content that generates direct or indirect revenue. That means that almost all content could be regulated, which is something that experts are concerned about. Can the minister clearly tell us that all user-generated content will be exempted? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, I've been very clear from day one. Platforms will have obligations, not users. Platforms are in, users are out. It's been clear from the very beginning. My question, and I have a lot of respect for my colleague, but he's from Quebec, and he knows how important this bill is for Quebec. And yet, for some reason, he's refusing to support the government in its efforts to support the French language and Quebec culture. I'm surprised and disappointed. The Honourable Member for Avignon, Lamitis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, the firearms bill is progress, and the Bloc Québécois will be working with the minister to improve it. But nothing has been fixed. Assault weapons have not been banned. And the mandatory buyback program is still just a promise. It's not in the bill. There's also the problem of there being a lack of a precise definition of what an assault weapon is, which means that new models could be created that get around the restrictions. If C-21 was adopted today, assault weapons would remain in circulation. Does the minister agree that we need to correct these problems? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I'd like to thank my colleague for her offer to work together on Bill C-21. It represents a significant step forward in our agenda to fight firearms violence. Now, on the issues my colleague raised about mandatory buyback, for example, we will be taking concrete next steps immediately to be sure that we bring these assault weapons back out of communities. That's the right thing to do. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Avignon, Lamitis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, let's not forget that C-21 does not sufficiently address the heart of the problem that we have in Quebec currently, which is illegal weapons. Illegal firearms crossing the border that end up in the hands of organized criminals and that are not being dealt with at all. There will be no kind of freeze or buyback for those weapons. Mr. Speaker, 2022 is shaping up to be the most violent year in the recent history of Montreal. Can the minister really guarantee that the measures in C-21 will be enough to turn around that trend? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my colleague has had a chance, or when my colleague has had a chance to read the bill, she will have seen that there are many increased sanctions for organized crime and criminals who want to traffic weapons across borders. That is exactly why we have added resources for border services and the RCMP to reduce or end firearms smuggling. We have already taken measures, but we need to go further, and that's what we're going to do. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Prime Minister said that the shooting outside a childcare centre in Montreal convinced him to table C-21, but that bill would not have prevented that shooting. I don't think so, because criminal gangs are not targeted by the bill. And yet, it is criminal gangs that are at the heart of illegal firearms trafficking. And that's what's leading to the wave of shootings in Montreal. Will the minister finally create a register of criminal organizations to help our police forces arrest members of recognized gangs? The Minister of Public Safety. I completely agree with my colleague, Mr. Speaker. It's unacceptable when there are tragedies caused by shootings. These are tragedies, and that's exactly why we are introducing this bill. This bill will attack criminals, those who are causing these tragedies. There will be new provisions like an increase in punishment for criminals, an increase in resources for police forces. We will be working with the Bloc Québécois and all members in this House.
Member for Peterborough, Kawartha.
Send your complaints to your MP. That's the proposed solution to the outrageous passport delays by the Minister of Families and Children and Social Development. Canadians expect service from Service Canada, yet we know that 11 of 35 passport offices have chronic lineup problems. People are waiting for hours on hold and often get disconnected after waiting.
This is not service. This lack of accountability and lack of preparation is unacceptable. When will the minister stop telling Canadians they are doing a great job and actually acknowledge the severity of this issue and serve Canadians?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, we have acknowledged that this is a challenge since the beginning, that these volumes are unprecedented, that we have passports that are up for renewal this year as well as from the past 2 years, plus additional passports for people who've never requested them before. But unlike the Conservatives, if a constituent has a challenge and needs support for an urgent passport, please contact their MP so that we can ensure that they get the help they need, particularly when travel is urgent. And so I am sure that all members in this House would like to help those urgent cases get their passport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, my office has been inundated with emails from constituents feeling frustrated by passport delays. Now we're hearing countless stories about missed trips, extra costs, and hour-long wait times. Passport Canada's website still says it only takes 2 weeks to process an application, but we know countless number of people who applied back in March that still are being told not to book summer travel. The system is failing. What is this minister doing to fix these unacceptable delays?
The Honourable Minister of Families.
And let me just clarify for the member, because when you read the website, it is 10-day processing for in-person services at a specialized passport office, and 96% of applicants are getting their passports within less than 10 days when they go to a specialized passport office. The challenge is in the mail system, and as I've explained to this House before, pre-pandemic, 80% of applicants happened in person. Now that's the reverse. We are working hard to address this issue, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to do everything we can to make this process as smooth as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's quite out of touch for the ministers to suggest people should just wait in line in these overnight lines to get their passports. I spoke to Jana in my riding. She has 2 children under 5. She can't bring them with her to wait overnight in line. She applied in March. Her credit card was charged on April 20th. She had to cancel a trip that was supposed to take place on June 13th. She still hasn't gotten her passport. She's rebooked for the end of June, and she's still waiting and she can't get a response. What is the minister prepared to do to help Jana and those like her get their passport and not have to cancel their trip a second time?
Honourable Minister of Families.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would encourage that Member of Parliament to reach out to my office. Everyone who has done that, we've been able to ensure that their passport is received in time. We are experiencing challenges, but we will continue to do everything we can to address these challenges. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm just going to ask if you can keep it down. I'm having a hard time hearing the minister. I've got magnification here with speakers behind me. It's still not enough.
The Honourable Member from Montmagny, Lilin, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, wait times for processing passport applications are ridiculous. Imagine, last week, there were people who went to the passport office with their camping chairs. People don't want to spend their vacation at the passport office. They want to spend their vacation somewhere nice in the world. So the solution is very easy. All we have to do is allow employees to go back in person to the office. So when is this going to happen with Service Canada, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand that it's very frustrating for Canadians because over the past 2 years, people have followed directives, they've stayed home, and now they want to travel. And they're everywhere in the world. For example, the UK, the US, Sweden, France. They have delays of from 9 to 11 weeks, and that's something that is happening the world over. But still, we are putting in additional resources to ensure that we can fix this situation. but it's going to last because there's an enormous volume. Thank you. Shaw.
Mr. Speaker, today's Auditor General's report confirms Canadian veterans are still waiting months or even years to access disability benefits and says better data is desperately needed. This has been an issue since 2014, but the government continues to fail Canadian veterans. It's completely unacceptable that veterans are forced to do without the supports and services they need because this government hasn't fixed the problems. It's been 8 years. What will it take for the minister to finally get Canadian veterans the help they deserve?
Minister for Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate my honourable colleague's question. I thank the Auditor General for her work and welcome her 4 recommendations. Our investment of $340 million has allowed us to hire hundreds of staff and speed up processing. With that, we have reduced the backlog by 50%, from 23,000 down to just over 10,600. We're on the right path, and we will continue on the path to make sure veterans receive their appropriate remuneration.
The honourable member for Elmwood Transcona.
Well, veterans need the government to get down that path a lot sooner. Today, the Auditor General also said that Canadians in the middle of a cost of living crisis aren't able to access the supports Liberals say are available to them. He made it clear that for these vulnerable Canadians, the government doesn't even have a plan to help. A plan would look like supporting a motion to make profitable oil and gas companies pay their fair share instead of voting against it. A plan would look like raising the GST rebate and declaring a low-income CERB repayment amnesty instead of trying to collect debt from the poor. So when will we see a real plan from this government that includes the relief people need to feed their families and keep a roof over their heads?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and we welcome and accept the report from the Auditor General today. We have an initiative called Reaching All Canadians to try and ensure that Canadians have access to the benefits that they are eligible for. We have been working with third-party organizations to ensure that those that are eligible for benefits like the Canada Child Benefit, Old Age Security, the Guaranteed Income Supplement, know that they can access them and they have support in applying. We'll continue to do more as we know that we want to reach every single Canadian who is eligible, and we'll keep doing that work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Halifax West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We know that the skilled trades are at the centre of Canada's economic recovery. That's why this government is investing nearly $1 billion annually to support apprentices. I think of smart investments like the Union Training and Innovation Program, which helps kickstart lucrative careers in well-respected trades, including for Canadians from underrepresented groups. Yesterday, I was privileged to have witnessed the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion announce the launch of the new federal apprenticeship service in Halifax. Can the Minister please share with this House and all Canadians the importance of this initiative?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to my honourable colleague for her important question. Skilled trade workers are essential to Canada's economy, infrastructure, and to our everyday life. To ensure Canadians can seize the opportunities in the trades, we're helping create 25,000 new apprenticeships across Canada. We're investing $247 million to help small and medium-sized businesses hire mechanics, electricians, and other apprentices. We're also doubling incentives for employers who hire persons with disabilities, Indigenous peoples, and other marginalized Canadians. We'll keep working with unions and business to build a strong, skilled workforce for the future.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, our country's housing crisis is at a critical point. This impacts everyone, including our soldiers. Recently, a senior BC officer told soldiers that they should go to Habitat for Humanity for assistance. These are people who are prepared to lay down their lives for our freedom, and they are told to go to charity. Shameful. When will this government provide adequate housing for our soldiers who are prepared to lay down their lives for our freedoms?
The Honourable Minister of Defence.
Mr. Speaker, military members and their families are our top priority, and we are investing $445 million over the coming years to tackle this very important issue that the honourable member raised. In February 2021, we increased military members' rates of pay to ensure alignment with increases received by the Federal Public Service. We also implemented an interim relocation policy to enable remote work options and to facilitate flexibility for members. Mr. Speaker, we have more work to do. We will continue to seek ways to support our members and their families. Thank you.
The honourable member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, Top Gun Maverick came out this week, but Canadian military families are not feeling the need for speed when it comes to getting military housing. They've lost that loving feeling that families of four are being made to sleep in single PMQs. Mr. Speaker, the hard deck for building homes is 6,000 homes needed for military families, given the great ball of fire that is also the housing crisis, which is on a highway to the danger zone. When will the government be a wingman and build homes for Canadian military families?
The Honourable Minister of Defence.
Mr. Speaker, in all seriousness, we will continue to support our Canadian Armed Forces posted across the country and their families. For example, the post-living differential allowance is intended to help reduce financial burdens for Canadian Armed Forces personnel and their families, and to ensure that the PLD allowance effectively supports CAF members and their families and addresses affordability concerns. The Department of National Defence is reviewing the policy as we speak. We will always seek to support the people who should serve our country with robust compensation and with a benefits framework that works for everyone. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, this minister needs to look up from her talking points. These are people, men and women, that we've asked to serve our country at home and abroad. And unbelievably, they are being asked to go to Habitat for Humanity for accommodations. They have failed to provide our troops with equipment that they need. They have failed to protect our troops from sexual misconduct. And now they have failed to ensure our troops have a place to live. This is an absolute disgrace, and this minister needs to answer for it.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that I have military members and their families as my top priority. From day one, as stated in my mandate letter, I have continued to commit to ensuring that our members have the support and resources that they need. That is why we are increasing our defense spending by 70% over a 9-year period beginning in 2017. That is why we committed another $8 billion in defense spending. That is why $6.1 billion of that will go to the needs of the military, and we will keep working on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Military personnel sacrificed to serve our country. They knew they would be moved, but they didn't expect that they would not be able to afford to live because their government would let them down. There should be some expectation of a similar cost of living when military personnel are posted from base to base. However, that's not the case with the rates of military housing varying widely across the country. The rates at Bagotville are almost double those at Cold Lake. Both are Air Force bases that are home to our CF-18s. When will the minister address this housing inequity?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to put forward a few facts. After significant cuts made by the previous Conservative government, we actually are delivering results for our Canadian Armed Forces members and their families. Tax-free income for members to...
I'm gonna ask the minister just to stop for a second.
That was terrible.
I think everybody wants to hear the answer to that question, and especially the honourable member for Fort Murray Cold Lake. So maybe we'll let the minister start from the top so that everyone can hear the answer. The Honourable Minister for Defence.
Well, now is the first one.
Mr. Speaker, I'll try this again. Thank you. After significant cuts made by the previous Conservative government, we are delivering results for our Canadian Armed Forces. Some of these results, Mr. Speaker, tax-free income for members deployed on international operations appropriations. Close to $200 million to improve access to health care and implement a joint suicide prevention strategy. $6 million per year in new funding for military family resource centers, which mean more child care hours, and enshrining a victim's Bill of Rights in the military justice system. Mr. Speaker, this is our top priority. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigette-Témiscouata-les-Basques. Mr. Speaker, university research is essential to the advancement of science and greatly enriches our societies. It is vital that the recruitment process for research chairs be solely based on candidates' qualifications and the type of the research. But in the case of the CRC program, Ottawa is putting diversity over excellence. Does the minister agree that no discrimination should be used when assessing competence? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague because he's allowing me to speak to the investments that we've made in science. In the past years, Mr. Speaker, you have seen the importance of science, technology, and innovation to bring forward solutions to major human issues such as climate change. We've seen the importance of diversity and inclusion within scientific research, and that, Mr. Speaker, is why we expect research councils put the right policies in place to achieve that objective. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigette-Témiscouata-les-Basques. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois has always advocated for research funding to be based on skill. The federal government, though, wants it to be based on diversity. But in Toronto, visible minorities account for 51% of the population, while in Rimouski it's only 2%, and yet both regions are subject to the same criteria. Mr. Speaker, our universities are doing everything in their power to recruit and represent diversity, but this needs to be realistic. Why does the government not trust universities, and why doesn't it fund scientific research according to scientific potential? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for his question. Indeed, we trust the universities on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we've invested massively in science, research, and innovation, and we must also ensure that colleagues in this House want that the scientific community represent the diversity of Canada. That is why we ask the research councils to put the right policies in place to ensure that scientific research in Canada looks like Canadians. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, we need to act urgently in terms of the labour shortage. There are solutions, but this government has shown that it's lost control. For example, a temporary foreign worker who's been coming to Canada for 10 years still has to go through an eligibility interview. Hello? That worker's been here for 10 years. Here's another example. A manufacturer who has plants in both Ontario and Quebec needs 4 times longer to obtain a permit in Quebec, and that is not Quebec's fault. What is the problem with Immigration Canada? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and welcome back to the House, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the question from my colleague because we know that immigration is essential to fighting our labour shortage. And we are looking for workers in certain professions, and I'd like to tell my colleague that over the first quarter of this year, we processed some 100,000 requests for work permits, which is double the number processed last year. We're going to continue to ensure that Canadian employers have access to the workers they need to ensure that we launch an excellent economic recovery in Canada and Quebec. Mr. Speaker, our economy is being adversely affected by the labour shortage. Not only are we lacking workers, but fewer and fewer people want to work. Why? Because the government has created a culture of dependency. Because the Liberals aren't expediting temporary foreign worker applications, when will this government put in place work incentives? The Honourable Minister. This is important to ensure our food security, especially during the pandemic. we need to protect our workers, and that is why we are ensuring that workers are ready to welcome their workers safely. We make sure that the Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, Liberal inaction strikes again. It has created a vicious cycle that is without precedent for Canadian workers and businessmen who are stuck with dire situations caused by the labour shortage. This is something else that is added to the EI problems, passport problems, problems with temporary foreign workers, permanent residency, and identity theft in Canada. When finally will this Prime Minister fix his general problem of incompetence? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, listen, I'm smiling because I always appreciate these questions, and it's clear that my colleague is very passionate, and we should applaud him for that, because on this side of the House, I can assure you that our government works very closely with Quebec to ensure that workers can work. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, we doubled the number of work permits that were processed as compared to the same period last year, and we're going to continue to work hard to ensure that Canadians and Quebecers can work. The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, after 2 very difficult years for the tourism sector, it is high time to underscore the importance of this sector. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance, can she tell this House what the government is doing to advance this industry, which is at the heart of Canada's economy? The Honourable Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague for her question and for her very hard work. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was the beginning of National Tourism Week, and Canada is ready to welcome visitors and travelers from the world over. And I'd like to also thank Beth Potter and her association for the excellent success of her conference last week, and for her leadership at the head of our tourism sector, and for everything they do to maximize Canada's visibility on the international scene. Happy National Tourism Week.
The Honourable Member for Desnete, Mrs. Nippy Churchill River.
Mr. Speaker, since 2015, the cost of living in northern Saskatchewan has skyrocketed. People travel great distances for groceries, medical appointments, and to check on loved ones. There's one charging station, no public transit, and there are more deer and moose trails and bike lanes in my riding. The cost of gas, groceries, home heating fuel, and farm inputs, nearly everything is getting more expensive under this Liberal NDP coalition. This is another attack on Saskatchewan's rural, northern, and remote communities. Isn't that true, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been taking measures in order to address the cost of living increase, which we all know is caused by the war started by Russia. Mr. Speaker, I do believe that the member opposite will find in this budget a number of measures that go directly to his point. Mr. Speaker, there is a one-time trouble finding affordable homes in our budget. Mr. Speaker, there is a proposal to subsidize dental care in our budget. Mr. Speaker, we have already reduced the taxes on middle-class families, and the Conservatives voted against it. Will they vote for our budget?
The Honourable Member for Peace River, Westlock.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the topic of Russia, we know that during the war and conflict, women and youth are at increased risk of exploitation. The 2021 U.S. Trafficking in Person report notes that the Ukraine has been a long-time source country for human trafficking victims. Now that millions of women and youth are fleeing Ukraine, we know that human traffickers have been targeting them. What specific steps is this government taking to ensure that Ukrainian women and youth seeking refuge in Canada are not being trafficked and exploited?
The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Thank you to my colleague for his important question. Indeed, the question of human trafficking is an issue, and indeed, this is something that we've raised through the G7. Many of the G7 ministers have made clear that we need to do more to counter any form of human trafficking, particularly in the context of Putin's war of choice against Ukraine. I look forward working with my colleague on this issue and with many others within Cabinet, because we need to give particular attention to this issue. Thank you.
Well, member for Brandon Souris.
Speaker, the Liberals reduced operating hours at dozens of border crossings during COVID-19. But Canadians are traveling again, crossing the border to visit families, to do business, or just to get away for a few days. 40 ports of entry, 13 of which are in Manitoba, are still operating at reduced operating hours. When will the Liberals restore the full service at our border crossings?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to report that thanks to the advocacy of the members of this chamber, including on our side of the House, we've reopened the vast majority of ports of entry, which is seeing an increase in trade and travel, which is driving our economy going, all the while protecting Canadians from this pandemic. Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to work with my honourable colleague to make even more progress as we head into the summer season so that we can get our economy even going better. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and welcome back again. Mr. Speaker, over the past 2 years, Canadians have been rocked by this pandemic, and it comes as no surprise that the harsh realities faced by our most vulnerable have been exacerbated, especially for women and children fleeing domestic violence. Far too many in this situation have nowhere to turn. Could the Minister of Housing, Diversity and Inclusion please tell this House about what our government is doing to ensure those fleeing domestic violence have the support and space they need? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge for his excellent question and work on this really important file. Last week, I was thrilled to announce $121 million to build over 430 shelters and transitional homes in over 15 municipalities across Canada. This work is being done together with 14 provincial and territorial shelter associations. These extra shelter beds as well as transitional homes will ensure that women and children fleeing gender-based violence will have a safe roof over their heads. This is the National Housing Strategy at work, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I asked the government a very straightforward question and that warranted a very straightforward answer. I did not get that. I rise again today because of the gravity of the situation. Yesterday, I found out a third Indigenous woman was murdered in Winnipeg this month. She was the mother of 4. Women are dying in Winnipeg, ground zero for MMIWG. So I will ask again, will the minister confirm last week's funding announcement includes a low-barrier 24 safe space as requested by my community, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday's news is indeed part of the ongoing tragedy in this country of missing murdered Indigenous women and girls. The announcement last week will create the infrastructure necessary to operate a facility that will be welcoming for people that are in distress. And as to the member opposite's current request, that is part of many, it is clearly one that needs priority and is something that we support as a government.
The Honourable Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are horrified by the recent mass shootings in the United States, and they want a government that acts to prevent tragedies before they happen. We want to believe that addressing gun violence is an urgent priority for the Liberals, but we have seen this pattern before. They table legislation, and then they don't do anything to push it forward, and nothing actually changes. Is the government just trying to score political points, or are they really serious about making changes to keep people safe?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure my colleague, and I hope all members will agree, that we grieve with the communities of Buffalo. We grieve with the communities in Texas, and we will always stand with our American friends at this very difficult time. But yesterday's announcement, which launched this new sweeping and transformative piece of legislation. The largest gun reform package in a generation is about taking concrete action. And I assure my colleague and all members that on this side of the House, we will work tirelessly to tackle handgun violence. We will work tirelessly to take on the illegal trafficking at the border. We will work tirelessly, Mr. Speaker, until we eradicate gun violence, and we will do that with all members and all Canadians. Thank you very much.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Comme il est 15h17, conformément à l'ordre adopté le jeudi 25.
As it is 3:17, and now pursuant to order made on Thursday, November 25th, 2021, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion to concur in the third report of the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics.
Call in the members. The question is the following one. Mr. Bazin, seconded by Mr. Brassard, moved that the third report of the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics presented on Thursday, March 31st, 2021 be concurred in. Amendment, Mr. Couric, seconded by Mr. Viss, moves the following amendment, that the motion be amended by deleting all the words after the word that and substituting the following. Le troisième rapport du comité.
The third report of the Standing Committee on Ethics to Information, Privacy and Ethics presented